Hey, welcome to a new episode of Last Call Baseball, number 124. If you didn't manage to catch last week's episode, we changed our name from Hipster Baseball Podcast to Last Call Baseball. You're asking, why did you change the name? I'm doing it to stay one step ahead of artificial intelligence because you probably heard that the Hollywood writers and the actors are on strike right now. They're worried about AI as well. I'm joking, I'm not worried about AI. But you know who's worried? Couple of New York Mets fans. Did you hear? Max Scherzer, future Hall of Famer, was just traded to the Texas Rangers. Max Scherzer's leaving the New York Mets, the bright lights of Queens, the bright, amazing subway, the 7 line in New York, going from the 4th place team in the National League East, in the National League East. The Mets, I feel like they've been stuck on this number for a while. They're 18 games behind the Atlanta Braves. And when I looked at the standings before I started recording, the Mets are actually closer in the standings to the last place Washington Nationals, one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball, than they are to the 3rd place Miami Marlins. And the Marlins have been in a free fall, but they're still in the mix to go in the playoffs. I was really surprised to see that the Mets were closer to the Nationals in last place than they were the team supposedly ahead of them, the 3rd place Miami Marlins. So Scherzer's going to the 1st place Texas Rangers, 1st place in the American League West. I think they were a game ahead of the Houston Astros, the defending World Series champions. I was surprised. Be honest, you're surprised that they also traded Max Scherzer, because last week I said that the Mets were probably going to trade Justin Verlander. I didn't expect them to trade Max Scherzer. The Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor also surprised. He said, quote, we're trying to better the organization. That's why I don't call it a rebuild. I still think we can go on a run this year, end quote. And Lindor said that to reporters after the news of Scherzer being traded broke. I've been saying this now for weeks that I still believe in the New York Mets. They're going to do a second half surge. They're going to make it to the playoffs because at the end of the day, you just have to make it into the tournament. No one's going to care about what you did in the regular season as long as you get into the tournament. Now with Scherzer gone, you know darn well Verlander's probably going to be gone. Pete Alonso was saying that he was just shocked. He was stupefied. I forget what word he said, because he realized he may be traded. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Lindor's traded, but the thing is that his contract is so massive and he's underperformed it now for, I believe, 2 seasons. He's probably not going anywhere. And what a way to end baseball in New York. You have the Yankees up in the Bronx with their horrible injury issues. And it feels like Aaron Boone is at the end of his tenure. Brian Cashman, the general manager, who knows if he's at the end of his tenure. The Yankees are in 3rd or 4th place? Or are they in last place? I want to thank the Last Call Baseball bullpen here. That's right. The Yankees are in last place in the American League East. The Mets in 4th place. There may not be any playoff baseball in New York, which, seriously, I'm not a hater. I'm telling you right now, but I would love it. Because ESPN would lose their freaking minds unable to show New York Yankees baseball at 7 o'clock prime time every single time the Yankees are in the playoffs. And they would go crazy having to put the Baltimore Orioles, the Atlanta Braves, the Arizona Diamondbacks to that prime 7 p.m. Wednesday night in October playoff games. I can't stand ESPN sometimes. Wait, what are we talking about here? We're talking about the Rangers. We're talking about Scherzer. We're talking about New York. I want to talk real quick on who the Mets received for Max Scherzer. A 21-year-old shortstop currently in Double-A by the name of Luis Angel Acuna. Acuna, that name's rings very familiar because Luis Angel Acuna is the brother of the Atlanta Braves superstar Ronald Acuna Jr. Right now, Luis Angel Acuna, he's hitting .315 in Double-A. He's hit 7 home runs, over 50 RBIs. I think he's the 3rd ranked prospect in the Rangers farm system. And now that he's going over to the Mets, he's probably the 1st or the 2nd prospect in all of the Mets farm system. I don't think anyone is saying that Luis Angel Acuna is going to be like his brother, because Luis Angel, number one, is 21 years old. I think Acuna Jr. was with the Braves when he was like 19 years old. So Acuna, he was already a star by the time his brother now is still in Double-A, but he'll probably make it to the majors sometime next year, I would say. On balance, you have the Mets giving up a 16-year-old vet who's, if you look at his numbers, and I'm not going to go through them now because that's not really what I do too much, but his numbers are way off of his career expectations. He's like I said, he's been pitching now for 16 years. This is almost like back in elementary school when you're reading those choose your own adventure books. Which way do you want to go? Would the Mets have been better off staying with the back end of his career, Max Scherzer, or say, hey, there's this guy who has good bloodlines. His brother is a superstar in Major League Baseball, and let's see if we can get something out of him in a year or two. I think it's a good trade for the Rangers because even if Max Scherzer is rejuvenated his renaissance for at least 2 months and he pitches like Max freaking Scherzer and the Rangers go deep into the playoffs, maybe even win the World Series, it'll be worth all the ridiculous money that they have to give Max Scherzer. Because as they say, flags fly forever. And on the Mets' point of view, they're like, as Uncle Steve, the Mets owner, said, this is a sunk cost. That money's already been paid. Let's get someone out. Let's get this guy out and let's bring someone in. So we'll see if Luis Angel Acuna becomes a serviceable, maybe even an all-star level player with the New York Mets in the next 2 years, let's say. But that choose your own adventure is actually a question I asked this week's guest. Why do we trade vets for prospects and why do we overvalue prospects? This week, our special guest is Kyle Glaser, senior writer at Baseball America and host of the Behind the Plate. Kyle, welcome to Last Call Baseball.
Hey, thanks for having me.
First off, I'm going to tell everyone I am very excited. Whenever I get a Baseball America guy on here, I love it because I am one of the biggest fans of Baseball America, what you guys do. And just it's for me, it's a combination of all of you, most of you guys is the enthusiasm for baseball and the insane knowledge that you guys have. Like, do you guys have to do like some kind of basic military training just to even be hired at Baseball America?
No, we do have to prove we know what we're talking about, though. I mean, most of us played in some capacity, have reported on baseball for years before we joined Baseball America and have an understanding of what it looks like at every level. I came into this, I'd been a major league beat writer. I'd also covered the minor leagues. I had, done some work covering the draft in terms of local high schoolers at my newspapers before this. So, yeah, I mean, you have to come in showing that you know your stuff and as well as just being a good writer, reporter, and journalist. We're a place that likes to operate at kind of the top of the market, if you will. And we want to make sure, everything we're putting out there meets the journalistic standards of accuracy and quality that people come to expect. But yeah, I mean, you've got to know your stuff. You can't fake it really anywhere, but especially at Baseball America.
Yeah, again, you guys have an insane, it's inspiring. And I consider myself as big of a baseball fan as your normal person. I'll watch some games, highlights, read up on the news, but how in the world do people in your position, when you're a reporter, or even I'm not going to ask you for talk about to speak for scouts, but how do you watch and consume so much baseball? Because I'm like, again, that knowledge part just blows my mind of how much baseball you're able to consume. Like, how do you do it? Give me like a 101 tip.
I mean, you've got to love it. I think it's one of those things where, look, this is our full-time job. So we have to put in the work, the time, the hours to do it. It's a full 40-hour week job. Again, this is our sole focus. So that's a big part of it, being able to set aside the time to do it like that. I don't think I can only speak for myself. I would not be able to do the job to the level I would feel comfortable putting my work out there if I had another job on top of this. Just the depth we have to go to, the hours it takes to really put in the work and the reporting. Having it be your full-time job is a big part of it. But you also have to love it. I mean, there's definitely times where, dog days of August, you're at your, 125th game of the year and, you're just kind of burning up and you kind of, it feels like a little bit of a grind sometimes, but then you realize, hey, I could be selling insurance, at 7 a.m. on Monday morning. So I think it's the fact, A, it's our full-time job, and B, keeping in perspective of, even when there's those times where, because in any job, there's going to be times where it feels like a little bit of a grind and you feel a little burned out, having that perspective and that appreciation for, how fortunate we are to do this for our full-time profession and, not take it for granted.
And you do obviously a lot. Most of the work you do is covering the minor leagues, and we're about in the 30th anniversary of that famous fire in the press box in the Atlanta Braves back in Fulton County Stadium. And that was the night that after Fred McGriff was traded from the San Diego Padres or from the San Diego area, from the Padres to the Braves, the fire happens. That fantastic pennant happened in 93. And that I actually was thinking about this a few days ago, knowing that I was going to talk with you of why are front offices so reluctant and almost overvaluing some of their minor league players? Because the guys that the Braves sent over to McGriff, I'm not going to ask you to recap a 30-year-old trade, but they really didn't amount to much. And then, but more recently, I thought of the trade for Manny Machado from the Red Sox, not the Red Sox, excuse me, the Dodgers to the Orioles, and Mookie Betts, the Dodgers and the Red Sox. And now you had just published an article on Shohei Ohtani, which is a hot topic. Will the Angels trade? Won't the Angels? All of that put together, why, in your perspective, are some front office, now I think across Major League Baseball, so overvaluing when they can immediately get a proven Major League talent?
A lot of it is familiarity. You're going to like the people you know best. And so I think it's funny to me from the outside looking in, I think people assume that front offices and, scouting departments, just because they have all these analytical tools, look at players completely cold-heartedly and have clear-eyed assessments. And the reality is most of them don't. Most of them, because they have more information about their own players, because they've seen most of their own players, because they've gotten to know their own players, they overvalue their own players. Generally speaking, again, there are always exceptions to this, and it comes down to accurate evaluation. More often than not, the player that you acquire who's an actual big leaguer is vastly more successful than any prospects you've given up. I've done multiple studies on this. I've found that at the trade deadline, only about between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 prospects traded at trade deadline ever become, even mildly consequential big leaguers, guys who play 2 seasons in the majors and have a positive career WAR. Just 20 to 25% of all prospects ever traded. And, for the most part, you're getting a big leaguer. So you trade these 4 or 5 player packages for a star, odds are only one of those prospects you trade is going to be a big leaguer. And the star you're getting is probably going to be more productive than that one. So a lot of times it's teams just being more familiar and kind of not being clear-eyed about their own prospects. And on top of it, a lot of it's fear too. No one wants to be the GM who traded Fernando Tatis Jr. for James Shields. The Dodgers, trading Yordan Alvarez for Josh Fields. That's something to this day the organization talks about and guides their decision making. They pour so many more resources into scouting their own DSL affiliates now because that deal has left such a scar on the organization. The Dodgers have won 99% of their trades, and they've had tons of success even with that trade. But just kind of the emotional scar of having made that deal has fundamentally changed the way the organization does its own evaluations of its own system. So a lot of it is again, familiarity and fear is a big part of it too. No one wants to be the guy that trades the next great thing when he's a prospect, however unlikely the possibility is.
In continuing that theme of fear, unknown, and also staying in Southern California, going back to Shohei Ohtani, the Angels have come out saying that, no, we're going to go for it this year. But then I read that Artie Moreno was vehemently opposed to trading Ohtani to the Dodgers. Why the nonsense of, in 2.5 months' time, if the Angels even make the playoffs, he could just walk over the freeway, not walk, whatever, just go up the freeway up to Dodger Stadium for free. What's your perspective on what the Angels are doing? And I don't want to say mismanagement, but just the 1 in a million chance of having 2 of the greatest players of their generation and refusing to trade them away. They were talking about, not talking, but the rumor was that Mike Trout was going to get traded back in 2019, the offseason. What's your perspective on what the Angels are trying to do?
The Angels have done exactly the right thing. The rumor about trading Mike Trout was back in 2016, and people were floating, Twins for Byron Buxton and Miguel Sano. If the Angels did that, it would have been one of the worst trades of all time. When you have generational all-time talents, you keep them, you build around them. Again, the point is to try and win games. It's not to have the number 1 ranked farm system. It's not to obtain maximum trade value. It's to win games in the major leagues. In terms of this year, the Angels made exactly the right call. I wrote a column about it earlier this week. They're only 3.5 games out of a playoff spot. They're in this race. Trading your best player and sabotaging your playoff chances make no sense. In terms of him leaving at the end of the year, the Angels' greatest failure as a franchise would be failing to ever make the postseason while having Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. It would not be, oh, we didn't obtain maximum trade value. The point of the game is to win. And they have a shot to make the postseason this year with both of them. They should take it. That's more valuable than anything they were probably going to get for Ohtani as a rental. We've seen teams just not want to pay a ton for rentals. So the Angels made exactly the right call. If they were 10 games out of a playoff spot, it would have been a different calculation. But 3.5 back, they're going to play Toronto now, where after that series, in theory, they could be tied. They could be in playoff position with 24 hours to go to the trade deadline. They have Mike Trout coming back in August, Anthony Rendon coming back in August, Logan O'Hoppe coming back in August. This team has treaded water okay. They're not at full strength. They're going to get better when all their players get healthy. They're in the regional playoff spot right now. Keeping Shohei Ohtani was absolutely the right thing to do. Again, the goal is to try and get to the playoffs. If you have a chance to do it, you should take it.
As a baseball fan, you want to see Shohei Ohtani play in October. I'm sure you do as well. And watching the World Baseball Classic, 4 months ago, that was amazing. I was fortunate enough to go to the couple of games in Miami, and obviously Japan won the championship, and I think that just juiced up Ohtani to really throw water in his face and saying, I don't think that he should be with the Angels, but he's his own man. He's him and his agent, and everyone is going to make their own decisions. Continuing with, so well the California teams, and I think of the San Diego Padres, the LA Dodgers, the Angels, the Giants, and the Athletics. Of those 5 teams, 4 of them seem from the outside perspective, want to win, and they have more or less good farm systems. But the way the Dodgers develop and spend seem to be a lot more successful than how the Angels are doing. From your perspective, what's that differentiating between the teams of wanting and spending and actually executing?
Yeah, I wrote an article about this a few years ago. For the Dodgers, the biggest thing is they invest in player development to a level that is significantly higher than any other organization in baseball, Angels and Padres included. Angels especially, the Angels do not spend anywhere near enough on player development, facilities, coaches, training staff, any of it. The Dodgers are ensuring from the moment their players are drafted, they're getting the best coaches, the best nutrition, the best weight training facilities, the best housing, all of it. And it helps these, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old, young men grow into, men and be kind of, have that physical component necessary to succeed in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers' investment in player development as well as scouting, people talk about their analytics. They have one of the largest scouting departments in baseball. They understand it's a true blend. They combine scouting and analytics probably better than anyone in baseball. The other team's the Rays. Again, everyone talks about the Rays analytics. The Rays also have one of the largest scouting staffs in baseball. The Randy Arozarena trade, that was scouting. Analytics had nothing to do with it. Their scouts went down and saw them, down in Mexico even. So it's something where for the Dodgers, it's not just about spending money, it's about spending money wisely. The Dodgers, more than anyone else, spend their money in growth areas, again, scouting and player development, and they spend their money more wisely at the major league level. They will throw big, big money out. You look at Freddie Freeman, you look at Mookie Betts, but aside from the Trevor Bauer deal, they haven't really had any big money deals go sideways. They spend their money very, very, very smartly. They recognize superstars and they pay them. Clayton Kershaw, they've, given many large contracts to. He's deserved it. You look at the Angels, they haven't always spent their money wisely. Josh Hamilton, Albert Pujols, CJ Wilson, etc. The Padres even, they've spent a lot. A lot of them have not been very good or smart deals. The Eric Hosmer deal was a terrible deal. The James Shields deal did not work out well. The Jake Cronenworth extension this year was so unnecessary and looks like a horrible deal now. So it's about spending money wisely. It's not just spending money at the big league level and then also investing in scouting and player development. The Dodgers do both of those things better, not just any California team, but any team in Major League Baseball, in my opinion.
Right. And it's incredible, obviously, thinking back to the COVID shortened season when there was this argument when the owners were going to pay or not pay the minor leagues. And I thought it was just a lack of decency, but we're not here to make those decisions. You've spent a lot of times reporting in minor league baseball. What's your favorite level of baseball to watch?
I mean, it is the major leagues. That's what I got into this business to do. And that is really my primary role at Baseball America. I lead our major league coverage, covering the World Series every year, All-Star Game, World Baseball Classic. In terms of the minor leagues, I used to enjoy watching high A baseball because it was the first level where you got to see kind of everyone, the best college kids, the recent draft picks making their debuts, the best high school and international kids who've kind of cleared the bar of, complex leagues and low A. It was also kind of the first level where the baseball's like clean enough to like be kind of respectable. So I kind of liked watching high A baseball before reorganization because the caliber was solid. You were seeing a lot of, top draft picks and prospects for the first time. They were all playing together. So it was the first time you had a real good feel for, okay, here's how they stack up against each other. Because a lot of times the best high school kids go to low A at first, but the best college players go to high A first. So you don't really have a great sense of how they would match up. Post reorganization, that's not the case anymore. The caliber of play in high A has dropped dramatically. I think you can argue, double A might be the most enjoyable because again, it's good quality baseball. The high jump to double A is kind of the grand separator of the minors. So the guys you're seeing there are guys who are good enough that they have a real shot. And it's pretty much all, young players. I mean, triple A is a higher caliber of baseball. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. But you'll see some more 30, 31, 32-year-old guys kind of hanging on at the end. It's just not always exciting. So I think double A is probably the level now. But to be honest, I have found that since reorganization, watching minor league baseball in general has been much less enjoyable.
That's interesting because I've watched a lot of high A in the Florida, not the complex league, excuse me, the Florida league, like the teams the Threshers in Clearwater, the Marauders down in Bradenton, et cetera, and also in New York to see the Brooklyn Cyclones. And I can't, I'm a big fan of baseball, but the high A, just the amount of mistakes, just even before the reorg, as you mentioned, I'm really enjoying now double A. I remember
Yeah.
last year I went to go see a game with the Bowie Bay Sox, and I don't want this to be some kind of work test, but I have a question for you when it comes to one prospect, because you reminded me, Bowie Bay Sox, double A, the infielder, the Cuban Cesar Prieto, he was promoted to triple A. When are we going to see him in majors? Because I actually watched Cesar Prieto when he was in the Cuban, what is it called? The Cuban National League, I think they
Uh,
call it.
Cuban National Series.
I
Yeah.
used to watch him with his team was Elefantes de Cienfuegos, the elephants of 100 of the town of 100 fires. I love that name. Tell us about Prieto. That's my little ask of you.
Yeah, no, he's a really, really good contact hitter. He came to the U.S. For the Olympic qualifiers with Cuba in 2021 in Florida. He defected. It was a huge, huge, huge blow to the Cuban team. They failed to qualify for the Olympics during that qualifier, and losing him was a big part of that. He can really hit. I mean, again, he's not a huge power guy. It's probably second base only, but again, he can just hit, and there will be a spot for him somewhere. Whether that's in Baltimore or not, we're going to have to see. They have so many good young infield prospects. It's not clear there's going to be room for him. But I personally think that if you're a team that has a starting pitcher to offer, the Orioles need starting pitching. He's one of the guys you should absolutely target. I think this has a chance to be a leadoff, top of the order hitter type who just hits for average, gets on base, and is a really, really, really good addition to a big league lineup.
I'm a big fan of Prieto. I can't wait to see him in majors, like you said, with this amazing super the baby birds. I'm very excited. I'm not a Baltimore Orioles fan. I'm a Braves fan, but I love again watching good young teams come up. Kyle, have you ever thought about writing a novel,
Yeah, I've thought about writing a book.
a detective novel?
A detective novel. No, I have not thought about writing.
Let me pitch you on this, and then tell us about the book you have in your mind. I see guys like you doing minor league. You're there, you're a detective. You're not searching for a crime, but you're searching for potential for future prospects. You go and you do your casework. You talk to scouts, you talk to other reporters, you do your own research, you watch videos. And if something comes up, I'm sure it's a big pat on your back. Is like, I cracked the case. I found the next Adley Rutschman. I think that's why I think you should write a detective novel. But you're your own man. Tell us about what the book that you want to write.
Yeah, I think for me, I would probably write more of a biography. I'm more of a nonfiction guy, just in terms of even what I enjoy reading. So I think it would probably be finding a really, really good biographical subject and writing about him. What that is, at this exact moment, I don't have a great subject right now. I've just a little bit swamped with work and having a young daughter and pursuing a graduate degree. So kind of my brain power is taken up with all that. But down the road, writing a biography or chronicling, an individual team season, something to that effect in the nonfiction realm, that would be what appeals to me most.
I think right now, obviously, you said your plate is overflowing, but I think there's two great stories right now going on with your hometown San Diego Padres of the insane payroll, the wanting to win. That's a great story in it itself, whether they end up busting or they end up winning. And I think the Atlanta Braves are having a phenomenal season, and this is like a 2-year run as well. They've won like 170 games since that arbitrary date of last year, June, whatever. Anyways, but of course, you're a very, very busy man. Because you're a busy man, I'm going to lighten the load on you. I'm going to take you away from your podcast work, from your work at Baseball America. If you were to become the czar of all minor league baseball, what's one or two things that we would expect from Czar Glaser?
I would get rid of the complex leagues and instead make that rookie ball at affiliates offsite, in a city, bring it back to the Pioneer League. I think the complex league play, I think the complexes should just be for, skill development, minor leagues training, et cetera, et cetera. Keeping kids there for seasons as their only rookie ball experience now before they have to go out to low A. I think it does a really poor job of preparing them for getting out into the world, living on their own, figuring out all the things you have to figure out. And also, I mean, it's just dead. It's not real baseball environments. I think, having the rookie level of play be, say, in the Pioneer League, where there's actual stadiums and actual fans, and it's not 115 degrees out, is going to be a better experience for the players. It's going to make it better, period, because fans are actually going to show up as opposed to couple scouts sitting on metal bleachers, being miserable watching, rookie ball. I would.
You're talking about. I'm sorry. You're talking about the complex league down in Florida, right?
And Arizona, both
right.
of them. I'd say get rid of the complex leagues entirely. Make rookie ball. Again, the Pioneer League out west, and maybe bring back the New York Penn League out east. As soon as players are ready to play in real games, they get sent out. No complex leagues as an actual league of games.
I like that, and I had never even heard of the complex leagues until I think maybe about 8 years ago, when you probably know the year much better than I do, but when the Braves had signed a very heralded Venezuelan third baseman, Kevin Maitan, and this was when the Braves were like in the complete teardown. I think this is probably like circa 2015, 16-ish. And there was no good news as a Braves fan. It was always like, well, what's going on in the minor leagues? And that's when I started getting into it, because it was very disappointing watching the Braves not win at the highest level. And I remember going on different websites and people would post grainy videos of the future, the next Chipper Jones. And obviously, as we know, that didn't happen at all, because then the issues with John Coppola happened, and Kevin Maitan wasn't that good of a player. Regardless, is there anything else that you would like to see changed in a minor league if you had the power to affect it?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of the changes they needed to make, they did this past year in terms of, doubling minor leaguers' pay, ensuring they had, safe, stable housing, better food. But I still think I would still like to see more security for these guys. I think their pay should be even higher than it is now. You go to some of these minor league facilities in particular, they're still not where they, the quality of the clubhouses, the quality of the workout facilities. I would still like to see them upgraded a little bit and just, have everything be professionalized a little bit more. So, again, higher pay for the players, better quality stadiums. And again, minor league baseball and Major League Baseball, to its credit, has improved things, but there's still a long way to go.
Speaking of minor league players and not getting paid, there are the very, very few ones that are coming in with multi-million-dollar signing bonuses. And the first person that came to my mind when you're talking about the low pay, the opposite spectrum, is someone like Paul Skeens, the incoming pitcher from the national champions LSU Tigers. I watched some of their games in the College World Series, and it was amazing. I've heard this somewhere else, but I wanted to ask you, where I heard someone say that Paul Skeens is going to come in potentially in Double-A next year and then immediately get promoted to the majors. I love baseball. You're a professional. Do you really think that Paul Skeens is that close to pitching to major league batters coming from arguably the best college baseball program, but that's still college.
Look, it's a big jump. We have seen the rare pitching prospects of his caliber move pretty quickly. Steven Strasburg, go back his first year, he did start at Double A, move up to Triple A, and reach the majors his first year after being drafted. And there is a sense that Paul Skeens is the rare kind of talent who can make a similarly quick jump. Back to Mark Pryor, prior to that, no pun intended, he similarly got up to the majors, very, very quickly. He was drafted in 2001, 2002, went straight to Double A, a little bit of time at Triple A, was in the majors by the end of the year. So we have seen it. It wouldn't be unprecedented. It's rare. But I will say, talking to evaluators throughout baseball, they do see Skeens in that Strasburg, Pryor kind of tier, that he could be a guy to potentially have that kind of rise as they did.
So, if that's the case, if Kyle Glaser says that, then next year I am definitely going to go watch him at the Pittsburgh Pirates Double A. What is their Double A team? Because I know the Marauders are their High A.
Altoona.
Altoona. Yeah, I'm going to go watch them because you said so. You didn't tell me to go watch it, but because of what you're saying, this guy's going to be in the major league soon. I want to go watch him. All of this talk of you were saying that the minor league baseball players need to be provided better, should be provided better housing, food. We can't do our job without eating. And I love traveling, especially to go see different baseball games. What's a few places that you would recommend when anyone is in the Los Angeles area, potentially go see Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout for the last time, maybe, or going over to the Dodgers or going out of San Diego? Give us a couple of places that you like in the LA area when it comes to food, a drink, coffee. We love local places.
Yeah. So in terms of, LA, so keep in mind, the Angels actually play in Anaheim, which is a completely different county. It's not actually LA. People don't realize it. It's in Orange County, completely different fan base, completely different locale. Artie Moreno just wanted to throw Los Angeles on the name to try and get some of the sponsorship money. But when you're in actual LA, my favorite spot around Dodger Stadium, it's a place called Mexicali Taco. It's an authentic northern Mexican style taqueria, and they have these tacos called a vampiro taco where they add some garlic to it. I mean, it's
Spanish for vampire.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think it's unbelievable. It's one of my absolute favorite. They have great agua frescas. So Mexicali Taco, not too far from Dodger Stadium, is my main spot whenever I head out there. Button mash is also a solid kind of like
mash.
Button mash. It's also
okay, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of just like cool hangout, brewery. It's got like kind of some, I don't know, it's got like kind of a hipster vibe a little bit to it, a little bit like some old school arcade games and stuff in it. But it's just a good spot, good craft beers and some good food. So those are probably the two spots around Dodger Stadium I go to. Angel Stadium, it's not really in an area surrounded by a lot of great food. It's kind of in like an industrial area almost. I will say my all-time Orange County favorite, and this is people might laugh at me. There's a chain out here of like 50s diners called Ruby's that for me has the best milkshakes I've ever had anywhere, any state, anywhere. So I remember going there as a kid. Again, it's like a 50s diner, but really it's the milkshakes that make it. I still think I have never had a better milkshake than I get at Ruby's. There's a couple locations throughout SoCal, but they're mostly in Orange County. Down in San Diego, man, that's the best spot for eating around the ballpark. That's you're right in the gas lamp. You've got so many great places. Union Kitchen and Tap is one of my favorite spots. They have some of the best wings, in my opinion. I always go there and get their wings. That's kind of the specialty there. It's really sad. There was a really good fish taco spot called the Tin Fish, but they went out of business post pandemic. So that was kind of a heartbreaker. Yeah, I mean, I think those would be my main spots. Like when I go down, those would be all the spots I hit first, I would say.
One more question on the Vampiro Taco outside by Dodger Stadium. Yeah. So the difference is that they just cut garlic in it, because that doesn't sound like your date dinner. Like you shouldn't be going on a date to Dodger and then order like 3 Vampiro tacos.
Yeah, no, I would not do that. Yeah, it's like I don't know how they do it, because it's like you see garlic like chunks in it. I mean, it's almost like they stuff it, but you don't see it. It adds a little taste, and it's perfect. It's amazing. And like the pollo asado is great, the carne asada is great, the guacamole is great, the agua frescas are great. They just have so much good stuff. But the Vampiro tacos are my go-to.
And talking about baseball, one last thing here. I noticed that your one of your dogs, June, had an Instagram account. When's the last time you took June to bark at the park? At somewhere one of the, or has June ever gone to to see a baseball game?
I have not taken her to bark at the park. How should I say this? She's a very, very sweet dog and she is well trained. But she's a little neurotic. Like we just likes to wiggle and shake. And, her sitting for, calmly for 5, 6, 7 innings while there's other dogs and lots of people around would not be the best thing for her. She's fine. We take her on hikes to Dog Beach when she's able to like go out and be active around other people and dogs. She's fine. Asking her to just sit calmly for a few hours, that's a no go for her. We adopted a new dog recently named Duke. He would do fine with it. We have not taken him yet. We've only had him for about 4 or 5 months. But he's much more, just his demeanor is much more calm, much more chill. So it's a little hot out here right now. I haven't taken him this summer, but he will probably take him, if not this year, then next year, because he can handle it.
I suggest that June and Duke might be better off starting in the minors, maybe at the complex league. Nobody's there. They're very calm. And then you can work their way up to the Major League Baseball. Kyle Glaser, thank you so much for joining us on Last Call Baseball. If you want to tell us where we can find your amazing work all over the internet, please.
Yeah, I mean, also subscribe to the magazine Baseball America. You can subscribe today. Every single month we put out great issues. A lot of my work is featured in there. Website is baseballamerica.com. We've got a ton of great stuff there as well. You can find me on Twitter at Kyle A. Glaser. I will still call it Twitter, not X, at Kyle A. Glaser. Yeah, those are the main spots you can find me, and I'm always happy to talk baseball.
I want to thank Kyle Glaser for joining us this week. As I said during the interview, I'm a big fan of Baseball America, guys and ladies. When October rolls around, their playoff recap, I think they take it out every day or every few days. That is must listen podcast. I love Baseball America, their channel, what they write. I'm a big fan of all those guys. So I really appreciate that Kyle Glaser was able to join me. And as I was putting this episode together and recording it as well, I was having a little drink. We still haven't gone away. We haven't gone away from that. One must enjoy life as we enjoy baseball. This week I had a beer called Bootleg Brown Ale from Pickett Brewing Company in Baltimore, Maryland. When I heard Pickett, Brown, and especially the word bootleg, it reminded me of the Keith Richards 2010 autobiography, Life. And in the book, in Keith Richards' autobiography, he writes about Mississippi, playing in the Deep South with all of the guys that he grew up basically idolizing as blues players and R&B artists. Keith Richard, as far as I know, does not like baseball. But I'm telling you, it's summertime. Everyone's going to be going away to the beach. Go to your library, go to online, buy the book, or even do, a Kindle or your audio book. Keith Richards, the book Life, fan-freaking-tastic. It would also be pretty cool if you've followed us and left us a rating and review if you want. Thanks for listening to Last Call Baseball. Get home safe.